All right. Thank you
Good
all for
morning.
joining us today for our session around the art of the possible with Copilot. This is the last session of 3. We truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to engage with Revanti. Revanti is a Microsoft partner that has a team packed with expertise, all things Microsoft. The team at Revanti is ready to help organizations deliver a more collaborative, more productive, and more secure experience. A few housekeeping items. This is a live event that is being recorded. We will be sharing the recording with each of you. If you have questions on any of the content presented today, feel free to enter them into the chat and our team will take action to help answer them. Our speakers for today, Roman and Jason. These two gentlemen come loaded with the deep wealth of knowledge around Microsoft's tools and its impact on end users. As always, I know you will walk away with more insights on Copilot and other Microsoft tools by the time this is over. All right, enough from me. Roman, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Shane. Just a quick audio check. Can you guys hear me okay?
You sound great.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. So, yes, really exciting to be talking about Copilot. Obviously, this is a series of webinars that we have been running throughout a couple of weeks. And here we are talking about Copilot for Microsoft 365. I'm Roman Avanesian, founder and CEO of Revanti Tech Consulting. We have been helping clients with their cloud journey since the inception of Microsoft Cloud Services back in 2008. We are 100% Microsoft focused and primarily focusing on what's called Microsoft Modern Work. And really, we are not just looking at solutions as just technology implementations, right? What's really important and differentiating for us is taking that holistic approach and really helping businesses to achieve more by solving business problems and achieving specific business goals and objectives. Really looking forward to discussing this. And with that, I also want to give opportunity to my long time ex-colleague and now alliance partner, Jason Price, to introduce himself. Jason, please.
Yeah, long time. I think we go back 10 years, and we're both based here in Los Angeles. Yes, felt the quake this morning. It was a good wake-up call. Oh, I bet Malibu is shaking and digging themselves out. But we're here in Santa Clarita, and we're a service integrator. So we work with fabulous Microsoft partners like Revanti to enable end users. And our mission, as you can see here, is to help small and medium businesses fully adopt Microsoft technologies, all the way from modern workplace, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, into the Power Platform, and upwards, of course, into Copilot, which is the topic of our discussion today. We also always want to work to optimize how businesses utilize this technology so that business leaders can be empowered by this additional wave of productivity in their users to solve their operational challenges and automate their processes and achieve measurable growth. But we have to do this in partnership with teams like Revanti. So I'm really glad to be here with Roman and the rest of the team. Thank you for having us. This is our agenda for the morning. So first, we want to just briefly touch on Copilot, what it is, its key features, how it integrates seamlessly with the Microsoft 365 applications, and then we want to introduce the art of the possible. You may have heard this from Microsoft before. It's one of their best practices for exploring advanced capabilities of Copilot, identifying innovative use cases, and also talking to future trends in AI that can help revolutionize your business. Then we're going to briefly discuss some use cases and scenarios. This is really the meat of how businesses utilize Copilot intelligence. how to enhance productivity, automate your routine tasks, improve collaboration and communication within the business. And then we'll take a brief demonstration of one of these use cases in play and kind of walk through it step by step, how Copilot can be used. We won't have a lot of time to go into the full capabilities of it, but we'll just give you a little teaser. And then we'll wrap up with user and organizational readiness. So insights on how you can prepare your organization for Copilot adoption, utilizing training and pilot programs and communication strategies to ensure that it's fully realized. With that, I'm going to kind of take a step back, hand this back to Roman, and we'll discuss, of course, the homework that has to be done before you roll out Copilot to your organization.
Thank you so much, Jason. And yeah, so before we dive deeper, right? So I kind of wanted to do a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of recap and also ground us into this understanding of the foundation behind Copilot for Microsoft 365 and how Microsoft approached the artificial intelligence, right? So in the previous parts of this webinar series, my colleague Yesai has been talking a lot about security, about governance, about compliance and privacy considerations, right? Why this is important? A lot of organizations are ready to jump on this train of artificial intelligence and enable Copilot or comparable solutions or custom AI solutions and what have you. However, the Copilot for Microsoft 365 is built on this comprehensive approach of bringing all these pieces together that are important for Copilot preparedness first, before even start utilizing and leveraging the power of artificial intelligence. And why I say power, because it is very powerful as it pertains to what it can do for the organization and how it can help the users. And really bringing all these pieces together, bringing the pieces of security and governance and compliance and privacy and considerations around the boundaries around data and data protection and data preservation and what have you. Really what's resulting in what's called responsible artificial intelligence, right? So just to kind of ground us into that and move forward, right? So what is Copilot, right? As we talk about what is Copilot, Copilot is really that AI-powered virtual assistant, right? So these days in similar scenarios like Alexa and you know, and scenarios like Apple Siri and what have you, right? So in consumer world, there are a lot of use cases where there's also already a virtual assistant type solutions available out there that consumers leverage by being able to gain more knowledge and or insights from the data that is available on the internet, right? So that's kind of in the consumer side of things. And Copilot is really designed to help users with a wide range of tasks, right? So today, for example, if you buy a Windows laptop, you will see a Copilot icon already integrated with Microsoft Edge, right? And you're able to gather the information and ask questions, and it will crawl the internet and basically gather whatever knowledge is available on the public internet. On the other end, Copilot for Microsoft 365 is a special implementation, right? So it is a special implementation in a sense of being integrated with this suite of Microsoft 365 products. And that's the power of it. The power of it is that within the commercial space or within the company, within the corporate environment, you have this power of virtual AI assistant to help you with you know, different tasks and activities that may be somewhat considered repetitive on daily basis, right? Drafting emails, creating presentations, analyzing spreadsheets, you know, aggregating data and really bringing tables together and things like that. Things that really require maybe sometimes unnecessarily spending time over and over again, and really bringing that, what Copilot does is really bringing that power of productivity and efficiency to ultimately to the end users, and obviously resulting in much broader scale in terms of the impact within the company. If we look a little bit behind the scenes as it pertains to the mechanisms, right, as to how Copilot works. Copilot itself, it's empowered by the system, what we call the Copilot system, right? And it's really comprised of three major components, if you were to break it down, right? It's typically the apps that are being used by users, things like Outlook, Word, Excel, Teams, PowerPoint, right? Those are kind of the front-facing, the end-user-facing interface, right? What they use on daily basis. There's also the component of data source, right? So we talked about the internet, for example, but in this scenario, in the context of this conversation, it typically would be Microsoft 365, and the workloads that you leverage essentially will be having the content that is essentially considered the data source and empowered by Microsoft Graph. And there's the third component, which is large language model component, which essentially able to process the natural human language type contextual scenarios, right, to be able to provide high quality responses. So if we look at the overall process, typically we'll start with user prompt, right? So user will inquire something, inquire a question, be it a presentation. They may be working on the Word document and they're trying to put together a presentation, or otherwise they're working on a project and they're trying to find the relevant data, right? They're asking the question as to give me something regarding project X, right? So that request will go through the Copilot system, and it will essentially first go through the process, what's called grounding. The grounding process will typically be passing that request over to the data source, to the content. The Microsoft Graph is essentially the component that will contain the content, such as emails, messages, communication, documents, files, and what have you, right? The main important purpose of grounding is really actually to improve the quality of the prompt, because at the end of the day, the user will be asking the question or inquire in natural human language, right? So, and then ultimately that request will be processed further to improve the quality to get higher and more relevant response. So what happens after that, the process will continue, and the request, the inquiry will be continuing to be passed over to the large language model for further processing, or I would say post-processing, right? So the request is sent over, right? So there is additional grounding. It will essentially, Copilot features natural language processing, as I mentioned, and provide contextual suggestions, automated task executions, and real-time collaboration aids, right? So so this really empowers the overall process. And after that, after the process continues, the LLM will respond back for additional processing of the request. And what's important here, what you see on the screen, and also empowered by our previous conversations on previous parts of the webinar, is the additional security checks. This is absolutely critical, because the preparedness and everything Yesai has been talking about in previous webinars, this is where it comes into play, right? So if there are no boundaries and there are no rules or policies in place, essentially any type of data can be returned to the user. And we may not necessarily want that, because that information may not be relevant or otherwise not necessarily intended for that request or for that inquiry. So that's why it's absolutely important to make sure that we have those things in place to make sure that this behind the scene process works as expected. So moving forward, this is kind of behind the scenes, right? But how does Copilot integrate with Microsoft 365 per se, right? So It integrates with Outlook, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, and other applications, right? It really provides that AI-driven assistance within familiar interface for end users. Everything we just talked about, it's behind the scenes. Users don't see that, what happens, and they don't really care. What they really care about, relevance of the data, high quality response back to them, right? And when essentially when they open the app, they will see the Copilot button, right? Typically in the upper right corner, like Jason will show you, there will be a little bit of demo that will go through. And this integration essentially ensures the intuitive user experience and allowing users to leverage AI capabilities without disrupting their existing workflows. And all this, what we're talking about, is within like seconds, right? The process is pretty quick, which is amazing to see that how that empowers end users, right? And there's also capabilities around like Copilot Studio for organizations to actually be able to build custom Copilot solutions and custom Copilot Copilot add-ons, etc. And more companies actually do that. So when we talk about, when we talk about artificial intelligence, and we talk about many different clients, and there are different questions that typically come up, right? So questions like, how will I use Copilot? How can it help my business? What can I do with it, right? Based on the Trend Index annual report from 2024 from Microsoft and LinkedIn, about 79% of businesses agree that they need to adopt AI to stay competitive these days, right? And AI just booming left and right. And what's important to make sure is our job is to come in and actually do the right thing to make sure that different industry verticals and different companies actually adhere to specific requirements and have specific use cases that really will help them with AI adoption. 60% of business leaders worry their organization lacks the preparedness to implement AI, right? They don't know from the technical standpoint, like we talked about the security, the governance, etc. But there's also the component of adopting and enabling users to leverage artificial intelligence in a proper manner, right? And about 59% of business leaders worry about quantifying the productivity gains of artificial intelligence, really calculating the benefits of time savings and reduce costs, right? And I'm not afraid to share some interesting numbers I've seen from Microsoft statistics as well about 225% readiness. 225% productivity time savings if users can save about 2.5 hours per month, right? Or per day, excuse me, doing some specific tasks, right? So that's absolutely important to take into account. So enough for me. I want to make sure we actually see that in action. I want to give Jason an opportunity to show a little bit of the art of the possible, right? And kind of go from there. So Jason, I want to give it back to you for a little bit to dive deeper, please.
Yeah, thank you, Roman. So these questions come up. How do we use this? How do we apply it in our business? What should we focus on? What productivity metrics should we observe as this transition occurs to utilizing these tools in our daily workflows? And so what Microsoft recommends is this art of the possible, and it has a number of different names. It's essentially a workshop. It's also been called the Copilot Adoption Immersion Experience. Revanti brands this workshop as Copilot Explore. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but essentially it's designed for customers that need hands-on interactive exploration of the vast capabilities that Copilot offers. And it's a discovery workshop, a couple hours where you invite up to 20 of your business stakeholders and you take them through this process where they have an opportunity to rapidly enhance their understanding and their utilization of Copilot, which can help them build consensus around should we move forward with this investment. And it's a significant investment. It's $360 per user per year. So let's, before you commit to all of that, it's important to have that consensus and build a cohesive strategy for AI readiness and integration into the business. And the agenda of these workshops, essentially, we walk through what are the current challenges that the business has. We'll pull out a Copilot in the browser to apply it to some interactive activities to demonstrate its capabilities. And then we'll go into Copilot inside of Microsoft 365 and show them some really rich activities there. After we're done with that, it allows your business stakeholders, not just IT making the case, but the entire C-suite to build a business case for Copilot. And then we kind of wrap everything up with an evaluation, help you define next steps. So by the time you walk out the door with your team, you have an understanding of the business value that Copilot can provide to you. And you have the makeshift of a vision of what the future state will look like, which becomes very important when you talk directly back down about implementing this to your employees. We have a vision. We're going to this place together. And we're all coming along. It's going to be a journey. We're going to have to learn a lot. You'll have to be patient, but you will have plenty to gain from it. And where will essentially they gain from it? There are plenty of universal use cases. We'll see some of those in just a moment, but there's also really specific, more advanced cases that you can identify during these immersion experiences, the art of the possible. So our intention is to help demonstrate how Copilot can find innovative ways to apply to cases directly in all of these departments, strategic applications of Copilot. So you can lift any out of here. Microsoft has this great resource called the Scenario Library. It's online. You can access it today. I'll throw a link into chat. You saw, of course, the link I'd put in there is for the LinkedIn survey results, so you can attack that. But we'll invite your chief legal counsel, bring in your marketing director, and have them look at the capabilities that this can do, and then they can touch into it and see that capability performed inside the environment. I'm going to drill down into one of these departments. Which one is most near and dear to me? It's kind of customer service. It's where I started when I began work at Yahoo 25 years ago and was there for 10 years. I came up through search and service in there, and we always dealt with customer complaints. So that's going to be our kind of first scenario here. Customer complaint comes in, and then we need to review the customer history. We need to figure out exactly what is the problem that they're asking about, not so much what's in their email, but what's a little bit deeper about that. And then we need to, if necessary, escalate any issues up to the product team, and then respond back to the customer so that I can, as quickly as possible, resolve this case. I can generate a high satisfaction score from this customer, and then I get a great service quality score with all the little details. Did you refer them off to another resource, etc. All the good marks I want to show my boss when he or she reviews that with me. So all of these scores become important. These are the metrics then that we would observe after Copilot's put into play inside of the organization that would prove, here's the improved productivity. Here's the ability to perform high value tasks. Here's the performance. Here's the business outcomes that are resulting from it. So I'm going to kind of dive away from this scenario and actually show you a demonstration. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an email I got this morning. It's a fictitious email from a customer, Jose Priva, and he's asking if he can expedite this particular process. Well, this is a long thread, and it kind of goes back over a couple days here. Easiest way for me, I could read all the way through it, or you might notice there's a Copilot button up here in the right corner that says summarize. And if I click that, it generates this summary of the thread. Jose has been unable to reduce the count of business basic licenses after upgrading to business premium and Copilot. I informed him that licenses can't be reduced. I mean, you can see this is kind of like the entire thread, and each one of these are links to that specific response that I had. Here's the one that was cited in that second message. The Microsoft billing teams requested further clarification, and there's the link to that message and the authorization to cancel. And then here's the expedite request that's come in. So all of this is pulled from the thread. So that same process you saw, Copilot went into the graph, it pulled out everything related to this, and then it ran it over to the large language modifier, massaged it a bit, and then presented as something very easy for me to understand with citable recommendations, and something I can even copy if I want to. You see this copy button up here on the right that I can now, oh, I have to escalate it, expedite this request. Well, maybe I need to forward that off to somebody else. All right, so this client's asking for expedite. Now, what's really important is understanding the value of this customer to our business. And so there are ways to integrate your CRM directly into Copilot through the Copilot Studio or through Copilot for Sales. You'll see this is an option up here in the upper right-hand corner. And this can, of course, connect directly with and pull customer records over. I don't have a customer record for this fictitious business, but I just wanted to demonstrate that is also possible. That's those, again, those finding those ways to aggregate data sources from your different areas of the landscape that you're operating in so that you can, and look, here's another summary that I just pulled up with even more information and the ability to draft an email back. Great. So Copilot's working awesome for me so far, but I want to understand this customer. Where can I find the history of this customer and provide it to Copilot? So I'm going to go off to another tool, and that is, let's see, my browser. Yes, because Copilot for Microsoft 365 is built into the stack, and here it is appearing as one of the options within the web interface. This is the Copilot chat. And so let me close that up. And let me drop a message in here because I want to say, Copilot, can you help me here? And rather than typing this all out, I kind of pre-wrote these so that we could save some time here. But I want to find any customer files related to Jose or to his company, Alpine Ski House. So I'm going to, instead of me hunting and pecking and going down through folders and different repositories for things, I'm going to let Copilot find it for me. Here it is. So it found a document. Here's the customer history for Alpine Ski House. This is like a Word document and a couple prompts that it's suggested here, what it's about, who contributed, and a quick summary that Copilot has provided. Details about various cases, a payment processing glitch reported back in December, and a user access control in February. Okay, so it looks like this client actually, their history with us hasn't been as smooth. They've had a couple issues that we've had to address. It would be good to know how we did on that. I'm going to definitely check this out. Let's click it to open it. And voila, Copilot's going to, well, actually, Microsoft's going to open up Word for me to view. Here's the entire history. The account executive is Adam. I'm going to have to follow up with him on this whole thing. And look at that. This is, again, this is not a CRM record. I don't have this connected into that, although that capability is available. But this is just showing me, here's the different cases that were here. There's the payment processing glitch. There's the user access control, software update. I'm going to look at the most recent. So let's click into it. This was not too long ago, July 28th, and there's the email that he provided and the problem explanation, the actions taken from this. Oh, good, we were able to resolve it pretty quickly, and there's our CSAT score, and it was a first call resolution. Excellent. Okay, good. So there's plenty of other history that's in here. I've done it as a document, but again, it's like however you are managing your customer data, you can, if you want to integrate this with Business Central, if you want to plug this into Dynamics 365, if you want to hook in Salesforce, then it can connect to these as well. Great, so I've got an idea now of the complaint, the history. What else might give me some background here? There's an order summary, outstanding orders and amounts. Yeah, what is the status of this account right now? This was also modified recently. Let's click this open. This is a PDF. Obviously very tough to see. Let's drill into 200. Okay, so they have they have an outstanding balance, $570. So it would behoove me as that customer service representative to resolve this as fast as possible and maybe see if we can get that payment done. So now I want to understand, what is the problem? He's escalated this billing issue. Wouldn't it be great if we could pull up something that tells us from our knowledge base what information is available on these licensing components? What are the requirements? So again, I'm kind of popping a prompt in here and letting, again, Copilot go out to the Microsoft Graph, find files that I have access to, and return back something from the large language model that makes sense here. Okay, it found 3 documents. Looks like a comprehensive guide for customer service agents, instructions on adding or removing licenses. Okay, that's very good. This is a PowerPoint presentation on offers for various tools, and this is the webinar deck that we're probably presenting right now. So let's actually go, and as a CSR, I'm going to be most interested in this document. So we'll pull it up here, comprehensive guide for customer service agents. Look at this: purchasing, removing, escalation, steps, best practices. So this is a comprehensive document, as I can see from this table of contents. Wouldn't it be great if I could actually kind of summarize this for my client? And I don't think he's going to read through this entire document, but what I can do is I can come over here to PowerPoint. This is easily one of my favorite tricks that's in here. So as we open up PowerPoint, you can see there's a Copilot button right up here in the upper right corner. Click that, the Copilot pane becomes available. And here right off the bat are certain items that we can try. Create a presentation about something, create a presentation from a file, add a slide, ask me anything. There's other prompts that you can use. I think I'm going to create a presentation from that file I was just looking at. Here it is, buying and removing licenses. So I'm going to tell it, go off and do that. And what it's going to do is go back out to the Copilot mechanism, and the system is going to ping into the graph, pull this document out, go over to the large language modifier and generate this content, come back over. It's going to check it against the graph one more, check the security, come back up. And you can see right off the bat here, it's creating an outline for this presentation based on these items. And lo and behold, we have a draft, 14 slides, and made some changes. It's included speaker notes, as you can see down here. Speaker notes on each one of these. Oh wow! So I can actually present this right immediately. Added images to make my deck more engaging. Yeah, it has. And applied layouts to organize the slides. So it's formatted this into an easily comprehensible design. Really cool. And you can use Designer for adjusting layouts. See this button right here, Designer. And this opens up another AI-powered function. This is already available in your Microsoft 365 subscription, to where you can choose how exactly you want this particular page. You know what? I'm going to go with these bullets like this. Yes, there's the overview. And that makes it much easier to understand. Now I want to respond back to the customer. So I'm going to go back to Outlook, to our thread, and it is here. And now I'm going to respond to Jose, pull in this, and you'll notice there's a Copilot button right here in Outlook as well, draft with Copilot. What do I want this email to say? So I'm going to kind of type that out or put this all together, let them know Microsoft billing team came through. It's all kind of closed out. Oh, let me add in another component to the prompt because the large language modifier can take this pretty deeply and can add in all of this context that we're doing as long as we give it really specific instructions. Confirm the business is important. Let him know we appreciate his patience. Let me do that and generate it. So it will now create a draft. Go again back into the Microsoft graph, over to the large language modifier. Give me something pretty simple. Okay, great. Yeah, that is simple. Let's adjust this. Let's make it a little bit longer. So this adjust button allows me to change it. I don't want like a poem, but you can see you can adjust this to fit the way you would like it to sound and regenerate additional attempts from that. So you don't have to always take its initial instruction. You can give it more detailed prompts. Okay, this is good. Anything you'd like to change? Add that we would appreciate his prompt payment of the overdue balance. And let's click this little button over here on the right, add that in, it drafts it out. There it is. Additionally, let's keep that. It drops it in. I can put this on top. Hi, Jose. And looks good. I will kind of break this up like this. If you have any additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I would attach that PowerPoint doc or any other description and then send it out. So besides me demonstrating to all of you how long that kind of, what did it take me? 5 minutes, 7 minutes? And if I didn't do the description, I just kind of ducked into things and that PowerPoint came up the way I had intended. You can see it would have been very quick response time. So my metrics would have topped out. That's the type of thing that we're trying to get to in demonstrations. And inevitably, things never go exactly as you intend. Sometimes you got to give it a better refined prompt to get the result out that you want. That always happens. And it's part of the process of learning how Copilot sometimes doesn't do exactly what you want. It has to have direction. It needs better instructions. Imagine if you have your own like live assistant, you get an executive secretary and you want it to do that work for you. You have to be very specific about the instructions that you give so you get back the quality of work from it that you intend. So we like to explore these use cases as well as others, looking at automating repetitive and mundane tasks. Get out of drafting everything, get out of, have Copilot write it all for you. Data entry, email management, scheduling, like these things, Copilot can pick up for you. This automation then is going to help reduce the workload that employees are feeling. Look at that survey. The link in there will tell you everybody feels overworked. They're wearing more hats than they were 3 years ago. They need more help. And this is just the solution to come at this particular time, to minimize errors, free up your time for more strategic activities, spending more time on the customer and giving them the service that they desire, whether it's an internal customer or external. And you can leverage then Copilot in different ways. Look at how we can find ways to transform our entire business process with respect to customer experience, enhance the decision making that we have. We didn't show you anything inside of Teams, but it can record meetings like this and create summaries, and there's so much more to do. And with that is going to come a culture of continuous improvement, so that as employees have newfound productivity, they're going to begin to share more information and generate more with a higher degree of quality. So that will then lead them to these advanced features and capabilities of Copilot, where you can get into deep learning algorithms. You can get into the application of predictive analytics, adaptive learning. There's more to be done there. Inevitably, it's the beginning of a journey that you will take with Copilot so that you can begin to unlock its full potential, drive innovation in the organization, and create competitive advantage. That's why you see that most of those business leaders surveyed in the LinkedIn study need it to be in their business for them to remain competitive. And that will also lead us to future trends that, like this says, help organizations anticipate challenges. What is shaping with the future of Copilot, with Azure AI and similar tools, and staying informed on the strategies to adapt to these and remain at the forefront of technological innovation. Kind of reading from here. That's where the journey is going to lead you. And that journey actually has some great, there's a model for it. This is the Microsoft User Enablement Framework, and it's a step-by-step guide for setting up Copilot, getting people to use it in the organization, and then beginning to integrate it with your business processes. And this offers a lot of insight on how to prepare the organization for Copilot adoption. You see this swim lane up at the top in green. This is the user enablement work stream. And this is where you see your training, your pilot programs, your communication strategies. You can see right in the first phase, it begins with leadership, executive sponsorship, creating an AI council that's responsible for governance and for responsible AI, everything that Raman was talking about at the beginning. And I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but you can read it, from the top down in each of these phases. And the two work streams complement each other. So at the same time user enablement is running, technical readiness is running in parallel, so that they're optimizing data security, governance, data access, and then building a co-authored implementation plan to run these at the same time. You get to the onboard and engagement phase. This is where the strategy comes to play. Deploy your training, bring in your champions, create a center of excellence where these best practices can be surfaced and shared with others. Launch your employee communications program, deliver your champions training, and at the same time, data security, permissions, and the like. On top, you get to deliver impact. Now, these key performance indicators begin to drive results. Success measures, user survey, feedback, reporting, additional scenarios for optimization, success stories that you can gather and amplify. Because once somebody's like, oh my God, you guys, I ran I had it create documents from this repository over here. I don't have to knock on marketing's door anymore. I can just pull the stuff over and run. And that gives your people the freedom of movement to be the best at what they do, unlocks their potential. We always talk about these, it sounds like cliches, but it really does become realized through this entire process. The goal of this is to get those users started quickly with Copilot so that the implementation is smooth and they can begin maximizing the benefits from day one, but leading to that fourth phase where you can now extend Copilot into really rich scenarios, tie in your additional data sources, your CRMs and such, and then customize your own Copilots so that they're doing the work for you, for your people. That's what we're after. We can dive into this in more detail, but just not during this session. We do have to move on. I want to kick Roman this back over to you so you can talk about how security and compliance fit directly into that technical readiness track.
I know for sure. And Jason, I was so excited when you were talking about some of the advanced capabilities, like the deep learning algorithms and predictive analytics and adaptive learning. I think one of the things, and before I talk about what you see on the screen, it's really for companies to understand AI is empowered and powered by continuous learning, right? Continuous learning and continuous improvement to help get more sophisticated, and leveraging things like sophisticated neural networks, right, to understand context, predict user needs, and generate relevant suggestions, and using historical data, etc. So I think it was very exciting component. Like I was listening when you were discussing that, but what you guys see on the screen, it's kind of like different flavors or different scenarios that we see in different customer customer scenarios as it pertains to security and compliance considerations for Copilot, right? Typically, organizations most likely already leveraging some type of Microsoft Cloud workload, right? They may be on Office 365 or Microsoft 365 E3 or Microsoft 365 E5, right? And what you see highlighted in blue is typically what helps organizations to decide if the security components that they have either sufficient enough for them to be able to move forward with adopting Copilot in a responsible manner, or otherwise they could consider some of the components and features and functionalities that they may want to add to what they already have to maximize the potential of security, governance, and compliance, right? Kind of like essential security, you have Office 365 E3 with Copilot, right? You may have multi-factor authentication, for example. You may have data loss prevention, and some companies may be looking for some more additional things, right? Like conditional access and self-service password reset, to empower their user population to be more efficient in terms of doing IT tasks that may not necessarily need IT involvement. So, and we'll be happy to share this content. I'm not going to dive deep into every little feature here, but essentially it's typically that combination of the license that you already have within Microsoft 365. You're able to do some things, you're able to do certain things with what you already own, right? And then adding Copilot on top of it to use it in a responsible manner, right? So, and that's typically where we come in terms of, different offerings we have, and we will show you in a second, how we actually help clients to kickstart their journey with Copilot, right? And our job is to make it simple, right? Artificial intelligence itself and everything that's involved around it is complex enough. And our job as consultants, between Revanti and Aston Price, actually to come in and simplify that journey. And we've done that many, many times. We know the structure, we know the approach, we know the steps to get there. So that's why I just wanted to kind of clarify. It's also important what license you have today and take into account those considerations, understand what's possible today, and then start thinking about adopting Copilot, right? And with that, I think we had some offerings to also show you what we call Copilot Explore, and I'll let Jason to kind of maybe expand a little bit on what we call Copilot Adoption Immersion Experience, which is an awesome conversation and discussion that typically Jason would run. But Jason, do you want to expand a little bit?
Yes, and you already have been introduced to this concept too, so thank you, Roman. That whatever name you put on it, it essentially is that interactive exploration of Copilot capabilities. It's intended for your business leaders, up to 20 people, so that they can undergo their own discovery, create that cohesion and consensus around Copilot, make the business case. It's a 3-hour session. We can do it online. We can do it in person if you're anywhere in SoCal, weathering the earthquakes. And yeah, I'm a certified premier facilitator in this area, and we love to pull out what are your pain points, where your teams find a lot of friction, and where they spend a lot of time on mundane tasks, because that inevitably is an opportunity, even though we haven't found it in these universal tasks over here or these departmental scenarios over here. That's where you can find opportunity to turn the dial on your performance. So by the time, again, everybody walks out, you've got an idea of the business outcomes and the value that that can provide to you. And how do you claim this special offer, this free offer with this particular code, webinar 3? What you do, reach out to Revanti. Either one of these, any one of these points here, email, web, phone, and we'll get back to you. I think this is an opportunity for us to wrap things up. Ramon, Shane, anything you'd like to add on?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason, and I really hope this has been helpful for the audience. And I also wanted to mention that obviously, you know, us being the premier partner, you know, we just talked about offerings. There are many more offerings that we actually provide to different clients, different industry verticals. I do want to also post this link that you can easily find Revanti on what we call App Source Marketplace with Microsoft, right? As it pertains to different different scenarios that may be applicable to different organizations. And I also want to emphasize what you see on the screen next to our logo, the holistic approach, business efficiency, modern security, right? So while we are talking about this or offerings or what have you, we're very nimble. We're very nimble between, you know, Aston Price and Revanti. We're boutique companies and we're very nimble, and we can be very flexible in terms of how we approach different conversations and scenarios with different clients. But I think that's it for me as well, and I'll give it back to Shane, I think. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And thank you, Jason and Roman. Thank you so much. Let's get into some of these questions. So what are the specific steps in, can you give like a general timeline for implementing Copilot? It's a good one.
Yeah, I know that when Microsoft lays out that user enablement framework, it's typically like 12 to 13 weeks, but we know also that business sometimes can't wait that long. So there are ways to truncate that down and to fit it into a smaller time frame. So I think it can be done with, again, because Microsoft puts a lot of these resources online. So if your organization has checked all of its boxes on security and compliance and responsible AI, and the organization is AI ready, then it's easy to compress that time frame. You might be able to get it down to 6 weeks.
Wow. Roman, is there anything you want to add on to what Jason said there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's right on point. It's really about preparedness, right? So enabling Copilot itself is a straightforward process from the standpoint of license assignment, but that's not the point, right? So the point is to make sure that if you bought the licenses, you assign those licenses to users, you actually know what to do with it. And depending on the extent of usability of or the usage of Microsoft 365 workloads, you know, some organizations just leverage the messaging component, some leverage the SharePoint Online, OneDrive, Teams, depending on the extensibility of it, and more importantly, the industry vertical and the use cases that company may have. That's what's absolutely driving the timeline from the standpoint of preparedness, from technical standpoint, the security, the governance, and data landscape, most importantly, making sure that data is governed properly, and B, user adoption. And the beautiful thing about this cohesive approach is that I mentioned flexibility, right? We can be flexible in terms of the organization's culture as well, because the culture, every company has different culture in terms of how they learn. Some companies open to what we call modalities, like modalities of, oh, we prefer webinars. Others say, oh, we prefer quick start guides. We don't want webinars, right? Our users are more accepting to documentation, for example. So those are the things, those are the variables that typically would drive the timeline. But typically, like with preparation and with adoption, we are typically looking between like 6 to 10, 6 to 12 weeks overall, depending on the size of the company, depending on the profile of the company, and really the tolerance level for the pace that the company can afford to move forward with adopting Copilot. I hope this helps.
Yeah, speaking of affording, and this question actually lines up. There's one more after this one. Unless anybody wants to enter more into the chat, feel free. So what, we talk about assigning licenses, we talk about, scalability. What are the costs associated with Copilot?
So, and I mentioned licensing right off the bat is your kind of biggest hit, 360 per user per year. And if you're licensing a small pilot or the entire company, that is something to factor in. The adoption services you can layer on top for, again, it depends on how much you're willing to do and how much you need and what your preferred modalities are, but it can be somewhere between like $5,000 and $10,000. The other consideration you need is how do you kind of factor this in and again make kind of a case to your ownership how this should be done. And that's another offering that we have. It's called a business value discovery, and we can actually create a profile and a report that says here's all of the soft benefits you're going to gain from it, what essentially are cost savings that you will get, and then here are all of the other costs that go along with it, so you can kind of plan that out and present that to your C-suite for them to get their buy-in on the money side. Roman, anything you want to add on that?
I think you got that.
Okay. And this question came in earlier when you were doing the demo, Jason. This particular person says their organization relies heavily on Teams. How can they see how Copilot works inside of Teams? That's ultimately the question.
Yes, so that's one that I wish we could have gotten to today, because I think the feature I use the most, which is I used to be very heavy on notebooks, and then I moved to OneNote, and I used OneNote for like 8 years pretty heavily, and now I'm away from that. And Copilot transcribes all these meetings, and then I can have it analyze that. I send my customers a report when I'm done, and it's all handled. How do you actually see that? Hey, this is another opportunity for one of those immersion experiences, or the Copilot Explore that we've been talking to. Come on over. We'll record a meeting, and you'll see exactly what you can do with the outputs that Copilot makes from it. Plus, then there's a lot that's coming down the pipe. Microsoft has a big announcement on Monday about how they intend the future of Copilot, and we're talking like the next 6 to 12 months, how they intend to make Copilot an assistant at a team level, so it can be the facilitator of meetings. You can tell it to do specific tasks during the meeting. It will also perform tasks inside of channels. It becomes almost like this assistant project manager for you inside of Teams. We don't have access to that yet. They're going to talk more about it on Monday, so stay tuned and reach back out to us for more news. Roman, anything to add?
No, that's absolutely correct. I mean, if anyone in the audience interested to have further conversations, as part of maybe Copilot Explore and immersion experience, be able to kind of touch on specifics, if there is like interest around how do I leverage Copilot within Teams, right? So maybe a couple examples there. We'll be happy to accommodate that and help better understand those use cases. And I just want to clarify if there are any specific blockers, because sometimes we talk to clients and there may be a simple thing that they may think it's a blocker, but we come in and we can help with those questions pretty quickly. So
Fantastic. Right on time, guys. So thank you everyone again for joining us. We will be sending out the recordings from session 1, 2, and 3, and you will have a copy of these things. So feel free, like as everyone said, feel free to reach out to Ravanti if there's anything that you need from a Microsoft tooling perspective, from a security perspective, from a Copilot perspective. We're it. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to working with you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you.